I just hit record. So we're going to start with prayer. In the name of the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Jesus, I surrender everything in this day to you. Please help me to not have expectations of my husband and my kids. Please allow me to feel my feelings as you provide them for me. You are all good. Help me to rely on you and not get stuck in the past. Help me to resist the lies that the devil wants me to keep believing. Jesus, I trust in you. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, welcome. And we are going to just start out. I just want to tell you about how to chat. Down in the bottom, there's Q&A. You can message me directly. If you have a question, you can be anonymous, or you can also just chat in the chat box, and you can just send it to me, or you can chat with others. So let me know where you're from, and also kind of what line of work you do. Like if you are a nurse, if you work in healthcare, or if you do something else. So a little bit about me. My name is Nicole Haugen. I have been a nurse for almost 14 years. I have been married to my husband, Will, for 13 years, and we have 6 girls, ages 12 through 3. And that is busy and chaotic and fun, and sometimes not so fun, but all the things, right? And in 2019, both my parents died, and then January 2020, I found out that my husband had racked up a lot of debt buying baseball cards that I had no clue. I was totally blindsided by it. And so I decided, okay, we need a change. And so my husband and I did go to Retrovi. That was helpful. And then I discovered life coaching, total God thing, right? I stumbled across it, right? I think God put it in my path. I was ready for it at that time. And with that, I realized like, this is amazing work. When I practice this work, when I manage my mind, I can hear God more clearly. My marriage is better. My health is better. I'm a better parent. Like I show up better in every area of my life. So I want to take those tools that I learned and pass it on to other people, and specifically Catholic nurses. And what I'm kind of finding out too is Catholic moms who work outside the home, because we kind of have a lot of those same thoughts that go through our mind, which is why I wanted to talk today about the superhero syndrome. So we're going to start with a model, because I got certified through the life coach school, and that's what Brooke Castillo teaches, is the model. So we're just going to run it through quickly in case you aren't familiar with it. And the model is composed of 5 parts. Everything in your life can be put into these 5 categories. It's a circumstance, a thought, a feeling, an action, or a result. Okay, that's it. Okay, anything in your life can be put into those. What a circumstance is, and like this is just kind of how we write it up, right? So you don't have to write out circumstance every time. When you run a model, this is what you do. A circumstance is an event or situation. It has to be factual. It's a neutral thing. There's no adjectives allowed. Okay, just very basic. One example of that might be, I work 32 hours outside the home as a hospice nurse. Okay, that's a fact. That's neutral. Or it could even be, I am a nurse. Okay, that's a fact. I have the degree certificate to prove it. I passed my boards, right? There's papers, there's a paper trail. I can prove that. Another thing would be, I have 6 kids. Okay, so I can prove that, right? It's fact, it's neutral. You can put words in the circumstance line, but you have to put the actual words that were said. Okay. So, and then we move on to the next. A thought is a sentence that goes through your mind that you want to keep it a simple sentence, and you don't want to put a question in the thought line when you're running a model. Okay. Your brain, if you say, why is he doing that? That's not how your brain acts, right? Your brain is, he shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Your brain does not give you questions. When we come back later to it, we put questions in there, but you want to put a statement. Okay. Then a feeling is a emotion. It's not a physical sensation, right? It's not like, oh, I touched the burner and I burnt my hand, it's hot. Like a physical feeling. Okay. Not a physical feeling. It's an emotional feeling. It's sadness, anger, overwhelm, depression. Okay. All those. And then you can break it down even farther into more descriptive. And there's a feelings wheel, you can Google it. There's tons of feelings. So then an action is what we do based off of the sentence that runs in our mind. We then feel something, and then we act or don't act. Okay. It can be a very big thing, like you're yelling at your kids, or it can be as simple as like a shift in your posture, right? You can be open stand to like you cross your arms and have a look on your face. Okay. And then from that, we get a result. Now, our results always tie back to the thought that we're having. Okay. And we either get an exact match or a reflection of ourself, or more evidence to back up the thought. So for example, an exact match would be if I have the thought, I'm a bad mom. Okay. My result is from all the actions I'm doing, right? If I have a thought to support or a feeling to support that, and then I take action, I probably yell, I probably overeat, I probably scroll on my phone. Okay. My result would be, I am a bad mom, right? When I take those actions, I'm a bad mom. Okay. Another example would be, so when you do a reflection of yourself, oftentimes in the thought line, we think they shouldn't be doing that, right? He shouldn't be doing that. My husband shouldn't say those things. Then what happens is typically our actions that come from that thought are, we shouldn't be doing those things. It reflects back on us. When we think somebody else shouldn't be showing up like that, we actually show up like that. Okay, it's very, very amazing, but you find it to be true. And then the last one, more evidence. Okay, so if I have a thought, if my husband said, are you making supper? Okay, that could go in the circumstance, right? He said those words. Are you making supper? 4 little words, very neutral. If I have the thought, he doesn't respect me, he doesn't appreciate me, he doesn't love me, right? Because that's often where my brain goes to, is when I think he doesn't appreciate me, well, it must be he doesn't love me. Okay. So he doesn't love me is a thought that I have when he says, are you making supper? My mind goes to, he doesn't love me. I feel horrible, right? I feel neglected. My actions I do is I probably snap back, I yell, and then my result would be I've gathered more evidence to show how he doesn't love me, right? If that's what I'm going in my mind all the time, is he doesn't love me, I'm constantly looking for ways that he doesn't love me. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. That was a kind of a quick breakdown of the model, but we're going to dive more deeply into it and more specifically on when we show up or we have with the superhero syndrome. Okay. So circumstances. Work 32 hours a week outside the home. Okay, we're going to just clarify that. As a hospice nurse, I have a 15 patient caseload. I have 6 kids, right? That's a fact. I have a new admission that's coming in today. My daughter needs cupcakes made by tomorrow morning. And the patient's family says, I don't know how you do it, right? I would often get this a lot. You guys can see this. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it all, right? That tends to be something that gets said quite often, especially when you have a lot of kids, or especially as a nurse. I think a lot of times people just say that because they they wouldn't be in that line of work. And so they automatically go to like, oh, I don't know how you do it. Like I can't imagine myself being a teacher. And so I often look at teachers and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, right? I do the same thing. Okay, so if somebody says the words, I don't know how you do it, it's completely neutral. I say those words to other people. And I have the thought, and it comes so quick. If they only knew, right? If they only knew how much I yell at my kids, if they only knew how messy my house was, if they only knew. And right after that is, I'm failing. Okay, so this is the thought we're going to run with. I am failing. Okay. And so that brings me, I feel shame, right? And when you think of your feeling, you really want to sit with where is it in your body? Okay, when I feel shame, it just feels heavy in my chest. I feel it radiating to my back. Like it almost feels like it's sitting in my throat, like, right? Like just shame. Might get kind of red in the face. Okay, that's my feeling. So then what do I do with that? Because of the thought I am failing, I try to step it up more, right? I try to focus more on work. I say yes to more patients. I try to get charting done. Or my charting perfect, actually. Like I really want to get everything right. I don't want to have it sent back for corrections. I want anybody to nitpick me. I work late to try to finish it. I come home and I make homemade cupcakes, right? Instead of going buying them, like, because I don't want to fail. So I better make the homemade cupcakes. I yell at my husband and kids. I spin on everything that needs to be done. I overeat, overdrink. I'm not a big drinker, but a lot of people are, right? Like I tend to go for sweets. I like to overeat. I stay up late. I'll go buy a specialty coffee, right? And then some people like to shop online. They'll shop, scroll on social media, wasting time. I'll cry and then I'll glare at my husband, right? Because he can't possibly know the shame that I'm feeling. And my result is, from all these actions, I'm failing, right? I'm not showing up as a mom how I want to be a mom. I'm not showing up how I want to be as a wife. I'm not radiating Christ's love. Like I'm not showing up, right? So I'm failing. Okay. On the flip side of that, the other portion is when people say, I don't know how you do it. The other thing that'll happen to me, and maybe you can relate, is I think, yeah, I'm amazing. Right? Like it's so funny and it's so extreme, right? I either go to, oh, I'm such a failure, to I'm amazing. Okay. So you can have the same circumstance, can work 32 hours outside the week, 32 hours a week outside the home as a hospice nurse, 15 patient caseload, 6 kids, new admit today. My daughter needs cupcakes for school by the morning, and the patient family says, I don't know how you do it. And the thought that runs through my mind is, I'm amazing. Right? So I feel empowered. Like, look at all the things I'm doing. I'm amazing. So then I walk a little bit taller. I say yes to more tasks at work, but not from like a frantic, like panicked feeling. It's like, yeah, I'm amazing. I can take on more things. And then I finish my charting in a timely manner. I say yes to more tasks. I go through in the laundry. I'm working on that as I'm charting. Like I put my phone away instead of scrolling. I'm like focused on the things to do. A lot of times, like I'll pull up my planner and I'll start like planning things and like organizing, like, oh yeah, like we're gonna have time for this and we're gonna do this. And I'll go to bed earlier. Like a lot of times, like, kind of feels it's empowered, but you also feel accomplished, right? So like you go to bed and you just like, oh, it feels good. And like you appreciate your husband more because like, wow, I'm killing it. Look at how he's killing it. Like, so you praise your husband and your kids, right? Like instead of like nitpicking like all the things you didn't do, you're like, oh, like look at us, like we're so amazing, right? And then you not only do you make the homemade cupcakes, but like you add sprinkles and a little pizzazz to them, right? And then your result is you're amazing, and it flows over into other areas of your life. So from those two ways that our mind likes to show up. Our mind, if you imagine it like a courtroom, I heard this explanation analogy the other day, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, yes, that's exactly it. So if you imagine your mind as a courtroom, right? And your thoughts are the prosecutor, the defense, the jury, like those are all your thoughts. Okay. The judge is kind of that thing in your brain that allows you to like oversee, right? And be aware of your thoughts. Okay. So the defense is going to give you is going to give a case, an argument, right? Like they're going to defend. They're going to give a defense for, I would say, this side, right? Like, you're amazing. Like, it's going to defend you. Okay. The prosecution is going to show all the evidence of how, nope, you're failing. Right? Look at all the ways you're failing. Like, you don't have a great marriage. Your house is dirty. Okay. Those are those thoughts. That's the prosecution. Your defense are the other thoughts, right? The two sides that we have of the coin. The defense is, no, you are a good mom. Look at, you made homemade cupcakes, right? Look at all the charting you did. Like, it might come back, but oh my gosh, look at how much you got done today. Okay. And then the jury takes all those thoughts. And a lot of times our brain likes to be like, I don't know which one's going to win. Right. So it's a hung jury. It then goes to the judge. Your results in your life will come from which side presented the best argument, which one has the most evidence to back that up. So if you spend 80% of the time thinking how I'm failing and presenting that case over and over, I'm failing, look at all these ways, the prosecution's going to win, right? You're not going to try anything new. It's going to be scary. It's like, oh, yep. Or if you spend more time building up those thoughts of I'm amazing, look at all the ways I am amazing, celebrating little wins, gathering that evidence, that side is going to win. So really, that's what happens in our mind all the time, constantly and very quickly. And so which side do you want to win out most of the time? A lot of times we get the same results, right? Like, we'll finish our charting, the cupcakes will be made, we'll go to bed at the end of the night, right? The kids will all be in bed. But how do you feel while all that is happening? Do you sit in like resentment and shame and overwhelm? Or do you sit in gratitude, empowerment, right? Like, how do you want to keep showing up in your life? And it all comes from our thoughts. It's really that simple. It comes from our thoughts and what thoughts we continue to choose and which thoughts we work on and build up. So that side of the argument wins. Okay. So do you guys have any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next portion on what we can do to try to build those muscles and grow. Okay, I don't see any questions pop up yet. So, okay. So, move on. So, tips of how to start building evidence and getting your defense built up a little better. Okay. So, the first thing that you want to do is start recognizing when you have those feelings. A lot of times we like to sit in the victim mentality. Okay. Like, we just think that what our brain offers us is a fact. We can't change anything. We can't do anything about it. That's just how it is. but you can when you start to recognize feelings. Okay, when you start to give a name to them. So a lot of, like, for me, a lot of ones that would come up was pressure. I felt pressure all the time to be perfect, to succeed, right? I give myself pass, fail, grade on everything, right? Lent starts next week. I made it about if I could pass or fail. I did that with every single thing. My house, if I was caught up on laundry, how I treated my kids that day, right? My marriage, how I showed up at work, everything was pass or fail. And even if I was succeeding in one area, right? Like I'm an amazing nurse. I know that. Even if I was succeeding in that area, I had all this evidence of how I was failing, except for this one portion. So for me, like the prosecution would always win out, right? Like always, because I had so much evidence built up the other way. I had one little area that must have been a fluke, right? That's why I was good in that area. No. So start to recognize the feeling. Is it overwhelm, failure? I can say for a lot of years, I lived in resentment, resentful of my husband, resentful when people would say, I don't know how you do it. I would almost use that then. When I wasn't using a weapon against myself, I would use it as a weapon against my husband, because how can he not see that what I'm doing is so important? Okay. But start to recognize that. What feeling is it? I can look back now and I say, like, okay, but yeah, that was resentment, right? Because resentment feels different than failure. So take a deep breath, pause. And again, if you're somewhere like you can't always feel it, I know a lot of times in my house, there's like kind of the witching hour, right around supper time, when everybody's getting home for the day. The kids are crazy, wound up from school. They're hungry. I'm trying to make supper. They're telling me a million things. Like it's intense, right? It's a lot. There's 6 kids coming at you with questions, help with homework, all these different things. And then the younger ones just like are running around, right? So like it's intense. Now I can't put intense in the circumstance line, right? But I can say, okay, that time of day is the time that like we really struggle. So I'm gonna model this out. I'm gonna put 5 o'clock, 6 kids making supper, maybe even where I'm standing in the kitchen. Okay, those are the facts. And then if you stop thinking, okay, how do I feel? I feel tense in my body. I feel like it's almost like a shock to the system every day. It's 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 just, it feels so like I can feel it in my all over. It's not just in my chest, right? It's all over. It just feels like I just smack, like if a bus were to hit you, just a, right? Like it's just that sharp, that intense. Okay, when I feel that, I give it a name. Okay. It's let's see, what is it? I would say shock. I mean, maybe that's not a good descriptive feeling. We'll go with it. Okay, shock. Pressure, maybe pressure. We'll go with pressure. Okay. Or even overwhelm. Let's go with that. I like that one better. See, you can try them on. It feels overwhelmed. It's just overwhelmed. Okay. An intense overwhelm. Okay. So then once you feel that feeling, pinpoint your body, see where it is. Okay. Now, why am I getting that feeling? Because we get feelings from our thoughts that we have. So I feel overwhelmed because a lot of times at that time, like what's going through my mind is I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom. Like if I was a better mom, they would be calmer. I would have had supper already prepared. It would have been in a crock pot. Like I'd be able to sit down and like you see in the sitcoms, right? Like the 90s sitcoms, like reading them a book calmly, like do their math problems. If they're upset, I go one-on-one and talk to them. Like I'm not doing those things, so I must be a bad mom. Okay. So that's my thought. That's a thought that I have a lot. Okay. And then I can look back and like in the moment, if you can. Okay. If you can't, if you're looking back, then you can write, okay, what actions was I taking? The result was, okay, I yelled at them. Like I took actions of I yelled, told them to get out of the kitchen. I was just like, I can't handle this right now. Like, get out. Can't you see I'm making supper? Um, maybe like my body language gets very like huffy, like angry, stomping, right? Like cut if I have to cut vegetables, I cut up the vegetables like like right, my face is scowly. Like those are the actions I'm taking. And then my result is I'm a bad mom. I'm showing up like a bad mom. Okay. So it's really important to recognize the feeling, whether you're doing it in the moment, and even in the moment, as I've gotten more practice and more practice, I can even say, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I can't really do anything about it except for like deep breath. There's an overwhelming feeling. Okay, keep making supper. Okay, that might be all I can get to that day. But then later, I go back and I try to pinpoint the thought. Okay. And then from that, whether you can take actions in the moment or later, then you can take action. Okay. So, what I like to do, let's say you had a really hard admission. Like, I'm a hospice nurse. That's my main area I've worked in over the years. So, hospice nurse, right? Like, let's say I had an admission. Okay. That's neutral, right? If I go there, they have a lot of questions. We didn't have the medication. We realized that they were sent home. They were missing a piece. Like the bed got set up, but it was missing a piece, right? Like you have to do a lot of problem solving. Okay. In that moment, if I'm spinning and overwhelmed, I can't problem solve for that family and that patient, right? But in that moment, once I get more practice, I realized like, okay, there's a lot of overwhelm, maybe even a little pressure to get this right now. They're counting on me, right? There's my thought. They're counting on me. Okay. Deep breath. All right. Maybe even like what I found too is like um if you like touch your skin a little bit, like just okay, that might look weird in somebody's home, right? Or in a patient's room. It's fine. Like, hey, can I use your bathroom for a minute? Like, okay. Deep breath, touch your arm. Like skin on skin contact helps us, our puffer fish deflate, right? It helps us calm down. Okay. Deep breath, touch my skin. I like to tell myself I'm safe. That's when I've been practicing. Like when I get really worked up, like I am safe. Okay. And then from that place, now you can access your prefrontal cortex and you can problem solve. Okay. At that point in time, if I'm in a patient's home and it's after pharmacy hours, okay, what can we do to get them through to tomorrow? And what can I set up to make sure they get this right away? Okay, problem solve. Maybe from that place, then you ask a coworker, right? You call your manager, you ask another nurse that maybe's been there longer, more experience, like problem solve. Okay. In the situation, the first example I gave where you're spinning it, I don't know how you do it. I'm a bad mom. Oh, my daughter needs cupcakes by the next day. Maybe when you calm down, you're problem solving. Who said they had to be homemade cupcakes? Nobody, right? Can I swing by the store on the way home and grab a package of cookies for the kids or grab a package of cupcakes? Like, I don't have to make those. That's something I can pass on. Like, I don't have, like, I'm not a bad mom. And bringing store-bought cupcakes, perfectly acceptable. Okay. So the goal is then, again, feel your feelings, recognize it. And like I said, in that moment, if you can't, start to get good at getting it. Once you practice this, you start to get good at recognizing faster and faster. Okay. Then you can pinpoint the thought and then you move into action problem solving. So another example would be, what day was, I think it was Wednesday. Okay. We had a storm the night before and there really was not snow. So I'm in North Dakota. I don't think I said that in the beginning. I live in North Dakota. So a lot of winter, a lot of snow, right? And the problem around here is like the wind, it's like 50-mile-an-hour winds. And it's very flat. There's nothing, there's no trees. So like anytime the wind blows, like the snow drifts just pile up. So the other day was Wednesday, the night before. They even had planned on maybe canceling school on Thursday, Tuesday night. It was stormed Wednesday morning. They were maybe thinking about planning canceling school. They sent home the kids as tablets and such because it was supposed to be such bad visibility. So then Wednesday morning we get up and it's clear, right? Okay, everybody can go to work. Not a problem. We're gonna have buses 2 hours late because it was a little icy. Just make sure, fine. So fine, we go about our day. And then what we realized is in our driveway, like we have just a little zip to get onto the main road, there was a giant drift. And not only was it a giant drift, it was rock hard because 50-mile-an-hour winds had gone and piled up the little snow that was on top of the other snow, piled up right to block us to get out of the driveway. So, okay, my husband goes out there, snowblower, tries to figure it out. The snowblower's not touching it because it's rock hard. So he's like, okay, I'm going to take the vehicle and I'm going to slowly see if I can like start driving on it. Okay, well, he is able to drive over top of this drift. It's that hard. So he drives over it, goes, dumps our garbage, comes back. Okay, you should be able to get it. It should be fine. And I'm like, can you take the van? Because if it starts to sink in at all, like our van's going to get stuck. I have things to do today. I had a parent teacher conference for one daughter. I had, then the kids had faith formation that night. So then I had to go pick them up from there. And okay, he goes the second time with his vehicle. He's like, I'm going to go move my vehicle up first, just in case the van gets stuck. So I'm not blocked in. I can get to work. As he did that, his vehicle started sinking into this drift. He's like, the van's going to get stuck. I'm not even going to try the van. Basically, but I did contact this other guy. You know, he hasn't got back to me yet. He's that guy that comes clears out our driveway and stuff. Should be a problem. Okay. He leaves for work. My youngest and I are here. So I go out. I'm like, maybe if I take the snowblower where it started like chopping up the snowdrift, I can clear the path, right? I can take care of this myself. Okay. Once I get out there, I realized that wasn't going to work. And if it was going to work, I would have to be out there all day doing it. And I can't, right? I have a 3-year-old inside. I can't leave her alone for that long. She wasn't feeling very good that day. Not going to work. So I was getting worked up. I felt panic because I felt trapped here. I felt like my husband didn't love me, right? I had all these thoughts going through my mind. My husband doesn't love me. He's not taking care of us. We're stuck here. He got out, so he gets to go to his basketball game tonight. Like, and then he doesn't care, right? That was the main thing. He doesn't care. He doesn't love me. That was my main thought that was going through my mind. And I tried to calm myself down, okay, how can I, and it didn't work, right? Sometimes it doesn't work. So then I ended up texting my husband, like, I'm upset. Okay. Well, he had no clue. He was blindsided because he didn't know all this was going on. He was over there doing his own thing. He kept trying to contact other people to come and clear our driveway because that other guy wasn't answering back. I didn't have all the information. I was just going off of my thoughts, my feelings, reacting, right? Taking actions and reacting and getting results that I wasn't happy with. So then my husband calls me and it's like borderline, like we're going to have a major blowout fight. Like that's going to last for 3 weeks. Okay. But after the call, I did these things. Okay. It's like, deep breath. I am safe. Nobody's hurt, right? We have a warm house. I really don't need to go anywhere tonight. The girls can just ride the bus home. They don't go to faith formation, like, because I don't have a way to get them. My husband can go to the parent teacher conference. He works at the school. It probably makes more sense for him to go there. Okay, calm down. deflated myself a little bit, felt like feel the feelings, like, of course I'm upset, right? Of course it's okay. When I think he doesn't care for me, he doesn't love me, of course I'm going to be upset. Okay, so I just sat with that for a minute. And my husband also must have been doing some of that, because then he called back shortly later and we were able to just be like, I'm sorry. Like, these were the things I was doing. These were the things I was doing. Like, and then we came together instead of working separately. We were able to come together and problem solve. Okay. But only after I recognized that feeling and I felt it, I found the thought, like, he doesn't love me. That's not true. He didn't just leave me. He was doing all that work on the backside of it. Like, I just wasn't aware of it. Okay. So pinpoint my thoughts. And then I took the action of just like deep breath, calm down. I sat down. I had some lunch because I hadn't eaten anything. So I was hungry, right? I took action of like, what do I physically need right now? Okay. So that's, long story short, that is a little bit of how, when we start to put these things in practice, we can start to recognize that. Because a year ago, that would have been a 3-week fight at least. And the whole time we would have been throwing out other jabs at each other, right? I would have been collecting more evidence of how he doesn't love me. He doesn't care for me. His basketball game was more important. But instead, I stopped that. I stopped that thought. I stopped that brain thought. And of course, my brain, how beautiful, right? It wants to protect me. It wants me to keep me safe. It thinks by offering me that thought, I'll then take the steps to protect myself. Like, I don't need him, right? Like, okay, brain, but that's not really helpful. That's not how I want to show up. That's not what I want my marriage to be. So, if you guys have any questions, I'll give you a few minutes to get those in the chat. Otherwise, I do want to tell you, I coach women. I coach Catholic nurses, and I coach Catholic women who work outside the home. We have a lot of the same thoughts, a lot of times about any job, really. But again, my specialty is Catholic nurses, just because that's who I am. And so when you work with me, I do one-on-one. You get 12 sessions of one-on-one coaching with me. We pinpoint your thoughts that are holding you back. And I like to relate it to like a physical trainer, right? A physical trainer helps you in the gym strengthen those muscles and pinpoints the areas that you can work on. Okay. Because I can do at home workouts, right? I can do all that, and that's great, and I'll get the results. But if I hire a personal trainer, they get me those results faster. They can see those areas when I'm like doing a lunge, right? They can be like, nope, tuck in your stomach, shoulders back, get you better results quicker. And that's what a coach does. Okay, so I love working with women. I offer free discovery calls so you guys can check me out. We just chat, we see what your situation is. Sometimes coaching is not what you need right now, and that's okay. Right? But I love just getting on and chatting with people to see where they're at and how I can help them. You can go to catholicnursecoach.com to book the discovery call with me. Again, that's free. And so let me look if there's any questions. Okay. Crystal says, what if I don't realize that I'm doing it at the moment? So again, that's perfectly fine. Kind of what we talked about, right? Like, the more you practice it, the better and stronger those muscles will be. And a lot of times, like, you don't notice it, right? Because that's just how it's been for so long. But once you practice it, and a lot of times I like to take my result that I got, right? Like the other day with the snowblower, the snowdrift incident, I have gotten quicker and faster at saying, is that how I wanted to show up? Okay, I take my results that I have gotten. Okay, right now my husband's upset with me. He didn't technically hang up on me, but he kind of was close to hanging up on me. I don't want that, right? Like I don't want that in my marriage. We've worked really hard, especially the last couple months, to get back on track with our marriage. Like I don't want that. I don't like that result. Okay. Deep breath. Go back to these steps. Okay. Recognize the feeling, pinpoint the thought, and then I can take action. Okay. And then ultimately it'll get you a different result. So I hope that helps. I mean, so what I if I don't realize, yeah, if I don't realize I'm doing it in the moment, that's okay. Right? That's okay. You had a human reaction. We're human. It happens. Right? Like you're not gonna be perfect. But the goal and the trick is to recognize afterwards, like, oh, that's not how I want to show up. That's not how God would want me to show up. Okay. And then to start working and learning and growing. Right. I like the saying, like, you're either winning or you're learning. Okay. So maybe you didn't win in that circumstance, but you learned from it. Okay. And let's take those tools and learn and get better at it next time. So ultimately, like, we can win more and more. Okay. Our defense can win more and more. We're going to go towards that side because we have more evidence. Okay. Another question from Kira. What if my husband doesn't agree with me working? Okay. Like, what specifically does that mean? Like, I know for me and my situation with my husband, it wasn't so much he didn't agree with me. He was fine with me working outside the home, right? And like for that time and place in our life, like I've worked many different things, right? I worked full time in the beginning of our marriage. Then I worked full time when I was a religious coordinator for a little while of our church. I worked full time, but it was half outside the home, half from home. And then I've worked part time. So I've kind of, done a plethora of things. It was never exactly that my husband didn't like me working. It was how I was showing up from the stress of working, right? Like it was when I would bring my charting home with me, and get very overwhelmed and feel behind all the time. And with any feeling you have, if you feel that feeling and you pinpoint the thought that's causing it, you can get different results. Okay, you can change those thoughts. So again, we can't control our husband. Okay, we can't control how he might show up, but we can control how we show up. Okay, so I hope that is helpful for you. Um, Next question, Carrie, how can I get my husband to help? Um, Again, we can't control our husbands, right? I've tried, believe me. I've tried for almost a decade to get him to listen to me, to try to control him. Okay. That being said, we can't control them and their model that they're running in their mind. What we can control is how we show up. The only thing you can control in life are your thoughts, right? We can't control the weather. We can't control what our employees say. We can't control what our manager decides to have us do that day. Like, I mean, to an extent, we can control some things within that, but like, we can't control our kids, right? Like, again, there's lots of times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if you control your kids, as a Catholic mom, I see a lot of moms that struggle with their kids leaving the faith. If we could control our kids, no kids would ever leave the Catholic faith. Our Catholic faith would be thriving, right? But God gave them free will, just like he gave us free will. And so just to like take the pressure off yourself, be like, I can't control anybody else. I can control me. So again, how do I want to show up? Am I helping my husband? Or am I spinning in how much he's not helping me? I know personally for my husband and I, like, we go down the resentment rabbit hole real quick. Okay. And then we start spiraling and spinning on what the other person should be doing for us. And that gets us nowhere. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't get us nowhere. It gets us in a hole real quick where we're both angry. He's sleeping on the couch. We're not talking to each other. We're storming around. When we do talk, like we're mean to each other. So you can't get your husband to help. But what I've noticed is when I show up with gratitude, it makes a huge difference. When I say, hey, I appreciate you. I really thank you for doing that. One thing I've been practicing, my New Year's resolution for the year was to, when my husband comes in the door, to just look at him, right? Like to move in the eye and say hi. Like I don't have to be like flowers and rainbows and butterflies, right? Because a lot of times like he comes in, it's that witching hour of like the supper going, the kids are crazy, homework. Okay. But I am happy he's home. I missed him during the day. And maybe you're not even at that point. Maybe in your marriage, it's just, hey, it's my husband. Okay. Like, great, start there. At least look up and acknowledge him that he came home. Have gratitude. Like, if you walked in the house and nobody looked up, nobody cared, it'd be hurtful. Right. And so that's where I'm starting to realize, like, that's what my husband feels when he walks in. Not only do we not acknowledge that he's even home, we then start, I start in, I need help with this, and this daughter's doing this, and this one's complaining about this, and I've asked them 15 times to do this, right? Like he just gets like, and I think that taking my overwhelm and projecting it onto him will make me feel better, right? Like, of course, my brain does that because it's trying to protect me. But what ends up happening is then we both end up in that overwhelm and spiraling. So just, again, recognize your feelings, pinpoint the thought, and then how do I want to show up? I'm going to at least look up, acknowledge him. And then I've made a commitment, like, to not look at my phone for 20 minutes when the kids come home and for 20 minutes when my husband comes home. Because I tend to get distracted a lot of times, and we all do, right? So that's one thing that I'm working on personally. And again, we can't control our husband. We can control ourselves. And the more that we start to manage our thoughts, our minds, the more that it flows into every area. Like it always amazes me, no matter how many times it happens, when I start to kind of like not feel my feelings, not work on that, everything gets worse, right? But on the good side of that is when you do start to manage your thoughts again and you really start to recognize it, everything gets better. I've lost weight. My marriage is better. I'm a better mom. Like I take more time and like I play games with my kids. Like I'm not spinning in that stress overwhelm. So like I know everything will get done. So I take the time and I play games with them. It's been really good. There's a lot more laughter in our house. And I want that for you guys because it is possible. Okay, so we have just a few more minutes. Is there any more questions on anything at all? Does anybody want to be coached? You could, I think there's a raise your hand button. You could raise your hand. I could bring you on for coaching. If not, we could run a model on this last part that I talked about. We could run a model quick and I could just run through that quick. Okay, I don't see more. So let's do that. Okay, so let's run a model on when you bring charting home. Okay. So we'll say the circumstances. Let's say, let's see, you saw. So I'm going to go with hospice because that's what I'm most familiar with. But you can plug in, whatever area you're in. So let's say I saw 2 patients for routine visits. So there's a little bit more simpler charting with that. And then I had an admit. Okay. And let's see. saw two patients and had an admit. Okay, that's neutral. That's what happened for the day. And then I have charting. Let's say I didn't finish up um let's say I completed one routine visit, charting, and I still have half left. And then I have pretty much the full admission. Let's say I got one tab done of admission, right? But I have all the other tabs of the chart. But I have to put in their meds, right? Like I have to put in all the things. Okay. Care plans still, I have to do all that. So completed the one routine charting, so half of the other routine charting visit, and then I only did one tab of that completed. Okay. And let's say that I walk in the door and my husband says, oh, you have charting, or you have charting to do. And here's the key. I cannot be like, he snarkily said, oh, you have charting, right? It's just words. Okay, we're just gathering the facts. He says, oh, you have charting. Let's say we'll put, oh, you have charting left. Let's say it's the best. That's typically what it is. Oh, you have charting left. Okay. So all of this can be fact. A lot of times it was when my husband would say something or comment on my work that I had left, I would get upset. Okay. I would get, I think my main feeling is resentment, right? I would resent how he didn't appreciate all the work I did. I would resent how he didn't see how hard my day was, right? So I would be resentful. And from that, I just throw a lot of thoughts, right? He doesn't appreciate me. He doesn't understand. He doesn't get it, right? So let's put, let's just put he doesn't appreciate me. Okay, he doesn't appreciate me. I feel resentful. Right? From that thought, he doesn't appreciate me. Most likely, I'm going to glare at him or like give some sort of like eye roll, scoff. Right? So put eye roll, glare. And then if my kids come up to me, like I'm already in that like he doesn't appreciate me, like so I yell at my kid like stop that, right? Like whatever. We'll just put yell because that's the action. I'm yelling. I put my bag down. Like I was always good at looking at all the things that weren't done. Okay, so right, I look for like the dishes that weren't done, how the table's messy. Okay, I throw my bag down instead of just like that. I start listing all the things I have to do still. So complaining about everything, right? I'd be good about complaining about my coworkers and how like they should have stepped up and they should have helped me, right? Like I start complaining about the whole thing. And then, like with all of this, then typically I rush bedtime. I like just quick get in bed so I can finish charting, or I would just ignore the kids and just go and chart and then be upset anytime anybody would bother me. So, either like rush around, right? Not appreciate. Right? Not have gratitude, not smile. All the things that when you're in that space of grumbling and complaining that you're not doing, right? And my result is I'm not appreciating myself, right? Like I'm not appreciating all of the things that I did during the day. And I'm also not appreciating him. Okay. Right. And then it would just carry over to the next day and so on and so on. Right. So if you recognize the feeling, there's that resentful feeling coming in again. My brain's just trying to keep me safe. Okay. My brain is trying to keep me safe with the thought he doesn't appreciate me. It's what it's really trying to do is it's trying to give me ways to start appreciate myself, but that's not how it works. We kind of have it backwards. So then what ends up happening is I don't appreciate myself, I don't appreciate him. But if you stop and pause, feel the feeling of resentful. When you feel your feelings, they go away usually within 90 seconds, maybe a little longer, but usually about that, maybe a little less. Okay. That feeling subsides. Okay. Why did I feel that way? I really felt that way because he doesn't appreciate me, right? He just said words. Maybe he was just curious. He just said words. How I showed up, I don't like that result. Okay. So what can I do next time? Maybe what I need to do is before I come in the house, just when I walk in that door, I'm going to notice 5 things that I love about my family. And I don't even have to say them out loud. I can just do this in my head. But I find when I drop into a place of curiosity, how can I view them? How can I appreciate them? How can I have compassion for them, right? When you have curiosity and compassion, it goes so much farther. And the kicker is too, then like you don't end up feeling that yucky feelings all the time, right? All of this starts to change. You stop right here. After you change that, you change your thought, you stop all the rest of this. Okay. So instead of, oh, you have charting left, what if I thought instead, like, oh, he's worried about me? Right? Like, doesn't that just feel so much better? Like, he's worried about me. He knows I had a long day. He's worried about me. Not only that, he does love me because he wants to spend time with me. Okay. That changes all of this, right? Instead of feeling resentful, I feel loved. And from that, like I appreciate my kids more. I finish the charting, but maybe it doesn't have to be done tonight. Maybe it can be done tomorrow morning. Okay. So wrap this up. Again, go to catholicnursecoach.com, book your free discovery call with me, and I can't wait to see you.